More often than not, posthumous albums usually leave a pretty bad taste in my mouth. Not at all because of the artist, but usually because of their label, their management, and whoever's just above them. Now, there are two different types of posthumous albums. Number one are the albums that are finished before the artist dies. Those perfectly fine, fantastic. I love those through and through. But then you have albums like this one that weren't anywhere close to being finished when the artist died. Pop Smoke unfortunately passed well over a year ago, and this album is just now getting released. And just like a lot of other posthumous albums, the majority of this album was not Pop Smoke. The majority of the album was, well, features, unfortunately. As a whole, you can really tell that the album was just not finished by Pop Smoke. Throughout this video, I'm going to make some criticisms on the album, and not a single one of those criticisms is related to Pop Smoke. In fact, I'm a massive Pop Smoke fan. He was one of my most listened to artists last year on Spotify. All of the criticisms I will make in this video on this album are regarding what his label did, what his management did, not what he did himself. With that said, let's get into it. Now, as a whole, I felt like the album, unfortunately, was a little bit above mid, maybe like a high 6, low 7, somewhere in that area. And like I said, that is not at all Pop Smoke's fault. Pop Smoke did a great job with all of his verses. I really felt like what he had, the parts that were him, that were unfinished, would have been fantastic if he were here to finish it himself. Now, there was somebody on Twitter who summed up this album pretty freaking well. They had said that what this sounds like is Pop Smoke basically DJ Khaled an album, right? Where he was almost executive producer of this, kind of sort of like a conductor for the album, and all of the features were the primary source, the primary meat of the album. And for most of the album, that was the case. Now, a lot of these features were solid, some were alright, some weren't that great, but you could definitely tell that the features took up the majority of the album itself, which is generally how posthumous albums go like this. To me, I feel like if Pop Smoke would have been able to finish his album himself, it would have had significantly more drill influence, but still being able to incorporate what he does with his singing capabilities as well, right? Because this album as a whole really was severely lacking on the drill aspect. There was a couple songs in here where I was like, that is drill through and through. That sounds like a Pop Smoke song, but the majority of these songs, they didn't sound like Pop Smoke songs. What they really sounded like was songs that the features would make with Pop Smoke as the feature, even though it's a Pop Smoke song, which honestly is a massive shame. There were a lot of songs in here where the beat selection just did not sound at all like Pop Smoke. The biggest one being a song Top Shotta, which more than anything was more of a reggae song than any sort of song that I think Pop Smoke would have actually gone and made. On top of that, there were unfortunately a couple spots where whoever produced Pop Smoke's voice didn't do the best job at mixing it. There was a couple spots where I was like, if Pop Smoke would have been here, that probably would have been a lot better. And I think one of the biggest things that bothered me on this album was that they literally took lines. They literally took vocals from previous songs that he'd put out and added them to songs on this album. Like, are you serious? You're really gonna try and fool us by taking audio clips, vocals from previous songs and adding them here, throwing on some features and calling it a whole new song? That's not how that works. That's not done the way that it should be. Now, there were also some other times throughout this album where Pop Smoke kind of referenced other songs he'd made in the past, which that totally fine. I love that through and through. But literally taking all the vocals? Are you serious? Are you serious? No, you don't do that. If you want to say the song was the original, add the word remix on it, totally. That is fantastic. That is fine. But trying to make it its own song, that's just not it, Chief. That's just not it. On top of that, it was fairly obvious that this was not at all even close to being finished when Pop Smoke died. The biggest reason why I say that is because there were some times throughout this where the features came in where they actually reference current events and actually reference Pop Smoke's death, which I'm gonna be honest, kind of bothered me a little bit, right? If Pop Smoke intended all of these features to be on here, that would have been great. That would have been fantastic. But I have a really big feeling that Pop Smoke's label decided, you know what? Let's throw some features on random little audio clips, random vocals that we have to make an album. With that said though, I don't want to talk only about the negatives on this album all the way. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that I actually kind of liked. Specifically, some of the songs that I actually really enjoyed. Here are all the songs that I either loved or liked a lot. Beat the Speaker, What's Crackin', Coop, Mr. Jones, Woo Baby featuring Chris Brown, and Demeanor. All of those I feel like were there. They were done correctly. They felt finished by Pop Smoke. Whether or not they were, I don't know, but they feel like they were, which brings up a really, really good point. If a label is going to go and finish an album, I really feel like they should try and finish it in the way that the artist would have finished it, right? Like all of the songs, they feel like they were finished by Pop Smoke, while the majority of the rest of the songs in the album, to me, didn't. But those songs specifically, I honestly kind of loved through and through. I thought all the features on there were perfect. The way they were structured was fantastic. Overall, those were just great, solid songs. However, should they have been all together on the album, they were the way that they were, that I don't know how I feel about, right? Because generally speaking, an album should be an artist expressing their sort of creativity, their emotion, their thought processes. Everything about them should go into the album. Whereas this felt more like a collection of songs put together by the label with a bunch of random features. That's what most of the album felt like. Now, I could go on and on even more about the pros and cons and whatnot of posthumous albums, but like I said, this album as a whole, I do not at all blame Pop Smoke for any of the negative things on this album. In fact, I think if Pop Smoke were here, the album would have been significantly different, had a lot more drill influence on it, and likely would have been just significantly better, in my opinion. But once again, that's really important to bring up. This whole thing is my opinion. And it's my opinion as a massive, massive Pop Smoke fan. The songs that I listed, I plan on listening to a lot more, but the rest of the songs in this album, they just didn't feel like Pop Smoke songs to me, so I'm probably not going to listen to them much more than this. Now, of course, I do know that Pop Smoke's mom wanted this album to get released, which I think is totally okay, right? I get that she's had to mourn for a child. That sucks. The whole Pop Smoke death thing, it was insanely tragic the way that it happened, right? Like stuff like that, honestly, stuff like that should not happen. Like that was awful. That shouldn't have happened. But unfortunately it did. Now, of course, there were people that were kind of arguing back and forth on whether or not this should have been released or not, whether or not this was a money grab or anything. And regardless of what it was, the album as a whole, unfortunately, just was not that great. And like I said, that is not at all Pop Smoke's fault. Pop Smoke, I think, did a phenomenal job with his vocals on these tracks they were able to collect. But I honestly am kind of disappointed in his label for putting it together the way that they did. Because I'll be honest, there are parts of this album that felt kind of rushed. It felt kind of rushed. And I feel like if they actually wanted to make a Pop Smoke album, they probably should put more time into it and made more of the songs actually sound like Pop Smoke songs. But with all that said, let me know what you guys think about this album down below, as well as what are your thoughts on posthumous albums. With all that said though, hope you guys did enjoy this video. RIP Pop Smoke through and through, man. And if you do want to see me do more album review videos like this, comment down below, let me know. Unfortunately, album reviews don't get the most views on this channel, but I love doing them anyway. So if you want to see more of them, let me know. And once you've left a comment on this video, make sure to join my Discord server down below if you haven't already. It is a vibe in there, and frankly, you do not want to miss out. Make sure to also subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out any of future videos that I post. And if you did stay till the end of this video, chances are you enjoyed the rest of the videos that I made. The one I'm pointing at right here is album reviews, so if you want to see more of those, check that one out. Otherwise, go and check out one of the others. I'm sure you'll enjoy it just as much. But with all that said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.